Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I want to welcome everyone to another episode of Blue TV that we do Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. And then I always say you can figure out the rest of the time zones yourself, right? So super excited to have everyone here today. We are going to talk really more about LinkedIn, but just let's take a step back for a second. I want to first welcome all of our audience members out there, whether you are on Team Live or Team Replay, be sure to let us know. So drop a note right now and let us know how things are going and where you're located, more importantly. I am usually in Houston, Texas, but today I am actually in Germany. And I will be here for the next, 17 days maybe. So I'm super excited about that. This was we knew we needed to come, but we waited last minute to book our flight. And so I'm super excited to finally be here. We've got some big things happening. We have quite a few things that are happening while we're here. So I'm super excited to just, be here to enjoy and have a great time with family and get to participate in those events that we were supposed to be here for. So yay for us. So to be specific, Leitersbach, Germany. So drop us a note. Tell us where you're located as well so we can recognize you and have amazing conversation here with you live. But if you're Team Replay, just let us know by the hashtag Team Replay. And that way we can come back and continue having more great conversation with those that are tuning in after the show. Well, after the live. So again, thank you everyone for being here. Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern is when we really have a lot of great conversation here on Blue TV, really around LinkedIn. How do we take some of the things that we, being myself and any guests that we have, and we have guests from time to time, we've got one coming up in the next week or so, where we talk about how we can elevate our game here on LinkedIn. What are some amazing practical tips that we can leverage that will allow us after the show to up our own game, to accelerate what we're doing so that we too can see some of the same exact so many of us have here on LinkedIn. We are sponsored by Market Me More, Top Voices Unite, and Cellevators. So I appreciate the sponsors. And if you recall last week, I think this is a great segue because last week we talked about headlines. How do we create headlines that grab attention, and what were some of the tips and the strategic things that needed to occur for you to build a catching headline? Not only how do we do it, but what's really the purpose? Why is it so important to do that? So the segue for this week is really about how to make your LinkedIn profile a connection magnet, right? When we think about in the old days, I don't know about y'all, but because I'm kind of old, in the old days, when I first started on LinkedIn, which was probably, if I go back, you can actually find your start date on when you were first here. You got to go back. I don't remember how to do it, but if you remind me, if someone drops a question in the comments to do that, I will go back and figure out how, because it's super cool. You can find out when you first started on LinkedIn, but back in the day when I did in 2008, it really was a resume. You really input your job titles, what you were doing, what companies you were working at, and it was what we leveraged as an online resume. Now we know, we've been touting this and talking about it for a few years now, that it's really not a resume. It's not a place for your resume any longer. We should not be just coming in and creating it so that it speaks to what we're doing. Instead, it should be something that really exemplifies who we are as individuals. Yes, what we do, but how we're doing that, how we're making a greater impact with those that we're engaging with. So I really call this your LinkedIn profile, your digital first impression, right? Think about when you go to a networking event where you're live, how you engage with someone for the first time, that's your live first impression. This is your digital first impression, your LinkedIn profile. I think more about, in those terms, I think more about LinkedIn really being like a virtual networking session, right? When we go live, how we engage with someone in a live networking event is somewhat similar to how we want to engage with them, utilizing our LinkedIn profile. Because if you think about it, very much like the headlines that we talked about last week, we're in this scroll mentality. We've got to give them a reason, those that visit our profile, to want to stay. So we've got to make it more enticing and exciting and just interesting rather than a few things that we're going to try to stay away from. So we're going to dive right into that right now. So we're going to talk really about how we should voice our story and how we voice our story and add value to the about section. We're also going to talk about creating a headline and a banner that is going to really capture, and then building a profile that attracts the ideal client and partners for visibility. So those are the three things we're going to talk about. So let's dive right into the first part of that, which is the about section. When you think about sections, they're really, if you go back, and I challenge you to go back and find the first 3 people that you want to follow and look at their about section. Now, if they're influencers, they're probably not going to follow the what you shouldn't do. They've probably optimized their profile. But if you go back to those that maybe are not influencers, who don't spend as much time, they're just kind of like us, right? They're everyday. Hi, Shabazz, and I don't know if I pronounced that right. Love to have you out there, so thank you. Yeah, if you think about how most people, not those that are content creators, but most people that are on LinkedIn, most of them will write an about section that is more in third person, right? They'll say Denise was, or Denise is, or Denise did. And it tends to be really non-personalized because you're talking about Denise in a third person. And it also tends to be super boring. How do we swizzle that? If you don't know Corey Warfield, you need to go out and follow him. He's amazing. He has a great community and is himself a thought leader and teaches others how to become thought leaders and influencers themselves. And when you talk about your about section, this is what I've learned from him. When you go to write it, think about it in terms of you being in an actual live networking session, just like we referenced just a bit ago at the start of the show, right? Think about it as though you're there at a live networking event. You don't say, "Hey, Tom, nice to meet you. Denise here. Denise is a sales expert who has sold a lot of great deals," right? I mean, we could have a real conversation about that, but that's not how you approach someone in a live networking session. You'd approach someone like, "Hi, Tom, I'm Denise. Great to meet you. How are you doing? What do you do?" And then when they ask you what I do, yeah, well, I am a sales expert who spent, over 35 years in sales, and I've closed over $75 million in revenue, working with larger companies. But more importantly, I did that because, and, so I would share, and that's a little off the cuff. That's not usually how you would deliver all of that, right? By the way, I am working on I've been awake for well over 24 hours. So if I'm stumbling, it's probably just because I am either, my mind's going a million miles a minute, right now, or I'm making sure that I'm being the best version of myself. So I apologize if I'm stumbling a bit, but think of it in terms of really having a conversation with them, right? And while I delivered a lot of information, that would not probably be my introduction in first engagement. When they first say, "Well, what do you do?" I probably wouldn't blurb out all of that, but you get the concept. It's really about talking to them like you're having a conversation, a live conversation. You want to take that same mentality and put that into your about section. Instead of using the third person, this is the one time when we talked last week about headlines, we talked about using we, our, theirs, us, instead of I, you, and me, right? I, you, me, my. Instead, this is the one time you can actually use the I, right? I am a sales professional who loved selling AI, but realized that there was a huge gap that I wanted to help fulfill. So now I run a Celebators program that really does most certainly help us. And then I could go in and blurb and talk all about that, right? But it's really about making sure that you, again, make it more personalized. Every content that we create, every engagement that we should have should be very personalized. And so we need to approach our about section as though we're personalizing ourselves as well. Instead of saying something like, I've had 15 years of experience, I help organizations, right? Instead of saying I'm a sales expert who sold over $75 million, I could say, I'm a sales expert, or I've spent over 30 years in sales, and, the differentiator and the reason why I sold so much business was because I really humanized the sales process, right? I really engaged with them in a more human way and really spoke to them as though I was, a buyer as well and not a seller. I mean, I don't know if I would say it exactly like that, but you get where I'm headed, I hope. And if you don't, make sure you leave a question below and ask me, and let's have some conversation about it. In fact, please ask questions down here. If I don't know the answers to them, we will get them to you, but it's all about personalizing. So that was a lot, right? All about your about section, but that's also one of your important core components, right? If you think about the about section, that's where people are going to either choose to move on or not when they read the first one or two lines. And so it's about really making it concise, filled with value that you bring and how you help solve a problem rather than what you do, in a way that's personalized and really as though you're speaking to someone at a live event. So Lowe's says, thank you. Hi, Denise Martha Bachman. Thank you, Nikki Estes, for sharing. Have a wonderful Wednesday from the Netherlands. So I don't know, Lowe's, if you joined, and I don't know if I pronounced that right, so I'm so sorry if I didn't. If you joined when I first announced that I'm usually in Houston, Texas, but I'm in Germany right now, so super excited. And Timothy says, Blue TV, Lone Star Lady, Denise, nice seeing you. About the planet. Thanks for all you do. Oh, thank you, Timothy. Yeah, normally I'm in Texas. That's where I sit most days, most weeks, And Shabazz says, right now I'm in a gathering. Next time we'll conduct you in your session with 100 commitment. Oh, well, thank you. We're just glad to have you. So thank you for being there. So that's this kind of a summary about the body of your profile, your about section. But let's take a step back, because when I talked about, the first couple of lines or what intrigues them and what helps them decide whether they want to stay or not, you really want to make sure that you catch them with a great headline and a banner. So if you think back of most of the headlines that you see, Nikki says you're a rock star. Thank you, Nikki. I appreciate that. You're a rock star. If you think about headlines, most people will say sales expert, top voice, brand ambassador, I'm just marketing expert, I'm just thinking about, but they're giving themselves titles. What I've really done, and honestly, this is not something I learned on my own. This is going back to Corey Warfield and working with Corey. He says to try to make it a bit more personalized. Tell them what you're going to do, what you do, how you help people, right? I don't even know what my headline says, but I'm going to pull it up right now. And I change mine often, right? So I got rid of the titles and I make it more personalized, what I'm actually doing, rather than I'm a sales expert. Right now it says, tired of not hitting sales goals? Together we can build a strategy while focusing on differentiating us as humans from automation and AI. So we are exceeding quota. 2025 is our year. Very different than putting your titles. And look, it's not, I will tell you this, even when you're crafting and editing and refining your about section, whether it's your about section or it's your headline or even your banner, you're gonna tweak it more than once. You're even gonna have to test and see how people react to what you have edited or put out there, right? And so I've changed mine probably even since I started working with Corey, maybe 5 different times. And maybe it had nothing to do with it didn't work or did work, as much as maybe the way I'm messaging something is shifting a bit, or I just want to change it up because it's kind of like the 4 seasons, right? We like fall, winter, spring, and summer, and we like to see all of those changes. And when we're in the middle of them, we're ready at some point to get over to the next phase. That's kind of what your headline should be, what you should model your headline around as well. Very much like the seasons, right? Changing it up as often as possible. Mike says, thank you for sharing all these tips and tricks. Thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate it. So it is about being creative, having fun, changing it often, and don't use titles, but tell people what you do so that when they see your headline, because think about this, when you comment on anything, they see, I don't really know the number of characters, but they see maybe 8 words. Maybe that's, 30 to 40 characters. Those are the first things they see. You want them, when they see a comment from you, they want to know that Michael Lopez, and they want to know what he does just in what they can see from their headline in the comments. So I challenge you today to go back and look at some of the posts that you're commenting on, and not only look at what yours shows, but what other people's show. Do they know who you are when you comment just by seeing your headline? And it doesn't have to answer everything in those few words, but it has to intrigue them enough to want to come and visit your profile. And the banner should really be the same way, right? And banners are going to hopefully change often as well, right? By not necessarily the season that you're in, but by maybe you're going to tweak the messaging, or maybe your most important offering that you've got, or maybe it's a special time of the year that you want to offer something new and exciting that is, that you're testing out, right? Or maybe you're going to an event and you want them to be there with you. You can change your headline or your banner up as often as you want and make it fun. I will tell you, that's the one I don't spend as much time changing. But if you do, it most certainly adds value. And whether you change it up or not, just having one that represents you. So the ones where you have just a picture of something, you don't just want a picture of something. You want something that it can be your brand, it can be you speaking, it can be you engaging in conversation, it could be a team of people that you are training, whatever your service offering is or your product. Leverage those types of images in ways that actually, again, pique the interest of your audience, your community, your network, so that they want to come back and read your about section. Because look, with your profile, it's about, you don't want them to just visit. We want them to stay. We want them to really get to know us and engage with us in a way that eventually leads to partnerships and opportunities and clients, right? I mean, that's why we're all here. We're all we're all looking to fill some sort of need, whether that's selling a product, a service offering, maybe it's selling our brand, maybe it's also selling, just getting to know people, but they have to want to get to know you. So you kind of have to sell yourself, maybe not just your brand, but yourself. I mean, our profile really here is our platform, and we really want them to not only connect with us, but find ways to collaborate, partner, do business with us as well. So I hope I covered a lot. We're not spending as much time today as we normally do because I don't want to, beat a dead horse. Is that the right saying? I don't want to beat a dead horse and spend a whole lot of time diving, much deeper into any of those three topics. But it is really about, when we are out here on LinkedIn, we are wanting to engage for a reason or another. Doesn't matter what that reason is. And in order for people to want to engage with us, we've got to put them in a position that will pique their interest, that will want them to read more, them to get to know us more, so that they want to truly engage with us, to build out those opportunities with them. And we do that by the subject line of our posts. We talked about that last week. That most certainly helps because they see them in the feed, right? As Shabazz says, I appreciate your vision and your approach, even though I'm stumbling through my words. But yes, we talked about last week how important it is to, when you're crafting your posts, to have really good, creative, valuable subject titles, right? It's our headlines, but it's also important for us to have our profile optimized. And the three key areas are our about section, our headline, and our banner. All three of those, you should be dynamic. You should edit them. You should add them. You should change them as you add more new stuff, and change them as you need. But it's also about making it more personalized, right? All of sales, again, we go back to whatever engagement you want. You're having to sell something, whether it's your brand or it's you personally, or it's your product, your service offering, whatever that may be. We are selling something. And so we want to personalize not just our engagement with them, but by also in the way that we foster that engagement, which is our profile, our LinkedIn profile. So make sure that you create it more about more personalized by taking out the I, by adding the I. This is the one time you can add an I, when let them know who you are, but not what you do necessarily, but how you do it. What are some of the stories that you can add, right? How do you personalize it so that it's almost as though you're having a conversation with them in a live networking session? When you're creating any of the, or editing, creating new, any of those three areas, think about as though you're presenting to someone in a live situation at a networking event. And would you engage with them? Hey, I'm a sales expert. No, you wouldn't, right? Think about how you would engage with them and put that down on paper as well. More than happy to talk through some of these with you. So if you've got some areas that you're struggling with, then be sure to ask, and I will do my part to try to help you. Sorry, Nikki says, go watch when Michael Lopez and Denise Murtha met up to chat how to humanize sales leveraging AI. That was a fun one. I appreciate Michael. Heck, I really appreciate Nikki, and I appreciate everyone else out there today, because this is an important topic. Because again, this is your LinkedIn profile is your first digital impression that you give to those that you want to engage with for whatever reason that might be. So, and to sum all that up, really what I want you to take away is some practical tips on how to actually do that. So when we talked about your about section, I want you to go back and read your about section. Does it read not in third person, but more about you as the individual? So leveraging the I, again, because this is the one time you can do that. And is it sharing with them how you've helped your clients, how you're working to improve or make an impact, how you're addressing some of the challenges? Those are really important to make sure that you edit that. And if you don't know how, and you're struggling with, does it meet what Denise here is suggesting? Reach out. And if it's not me, there are a million of us out there who can help you with your LinkedIn profile. So just ask, and I will be more than happy to, as anyone else would as well. Sorry. Again, I'm struggling today. So that was first. The second was your headline. Get away from the titles, make it fun, make it creative, and change it up. That's the one that you can change up more than the other two components. Out of the three, that's the one that you can have the most fun with and change according to the time, the season, the whatever you're doing. And even when as you're refining messaging, right? Test it out. So your takeaway is on this one to go and look at your headline. Does it meet any of those tips that I just suggested? And if it doesn't, let's have a conversation. Let's figure out how to adjust it so that it doesn't read that you are a sales expert, a marketing expert, a sales coach, marketing coach, an executive coach, but that you are someone who's actually out there making an impact and how you want to help someone to do that. And then the third was your banner. This one can be changed up, as many times as you want, but it should be something that really represents what you're doing, whether that's a logo, picture of yourself speak, or working with others, whatever that image is. It should not just be a random picture of your favorite place to go hang out, right? Or a picture of you and your family. It should really be something that represents, if all they see is your banner, then they can see kind of what you do. They may not know exactly, but they see that you are branded in some way, whether that's your own or working for a corporation. So it is easy for us to just get caught up in having created our profile and then just move on and never touch it. So I challenge each of you today that are out here, whether you're on Team Live or Team Replay, to go out and review your profile. Go determine whether or not your about section really represents and it seems as though you're networking with someone live. Your headline is more than just titles, but shares about what you can help someone with. Because again, remember the first 8 words, maybe 20 to 30 characters. Those are what people see when you comment. And then the third is review your banner. Does it really represent what you're doing? So that when someone, if they can't see any text or, any of your headline or your posts or your about section yet, can they see kind of what you do? They don't have to know the answer to it, but they just got to see. I mean, for me, mine is my Selevators. I don't think anyone knows what Selevators, unless they're familiar with Selevators. If they're randomly checking out, they're not going to know. Thus far, intrigued them enough to want to go and look at my headline and then my about section. I don't know if it's really in that order, but you get my point, right? You want it to be something that Doesn't share the whole story, but at least piques their interest. So that's the goal of optimizing your profile, is making it as though you are fostering this connection with those that come to view your profile. So if you have any questions, definitely reach out. I'd love to have additional conversation. If you're on Team Replay, make sure you leave us the hashtag Team Replay. Also, let us know where you're dialing in from. Timothy says most people nowadays are multifaceted with multiple hats. Amazing times, so much at our fingertips with technology. Now AI steps in as the whole paradigm shifts. Thanks again, Denise, for riding the wave. You're the best. I appreciate that, Timothy. So I want to wish everyone a wonderful, happy hump day. I want to remind you that we're here on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. And if you are in Germany, as I will be for the next 2 Wednesdays, at 5 p.m. But I won't do the math for everyone else. If you have a question, though, reach out and let us know. We'll help you figure out what time zone you're in. And each week, I talk about, or we have a guest and we talk about, our discussions are centered around how do we elevate what we're doing on LinkedIn. We're sponsored by Market Me More, Top Voices Unite, and Celevators, and we're so appreciative to all that they do. I want to thank everyone who's been out here today: Michael, Timothy, Shabazz, Melanie, Nikki. Trying to see if I've captured everyone. I want to make sure. I'm just going to run through. I think Lowe's. I appreciate you all being out there today. Those of you that just didn't chime in, we are thankful to have had you as well. Hope that you got the great tips. I want to hear when you leave and you go look at your profile, what you uncovered or what your challenges were, or have you already been able to implement some of those already, even before you joined us today? I want to hear that. We want to hear that. Let's have some great conversation. So again, thank you. We'll see you here again next Wednesday, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, and 5 p.m. German time, where we spend some more time really uncovering ways that we can elevate our game here on LinkedIn and see some of the same success that a lot of these top voice badged LinkedIn content creators have achieved as well. So hope you had some great tips. Let us know how it's going. Have a wonderful rest of your week, an amazing hump day. And yeah, that's it. I'm signing off. Thank you, guys.